All right, so in this video, we're going to be talking about how to calculate tip or gratuity, as it's called in a lot of restaurants. And gratuity comes from gratitude. And when you have gratitude, you're saying thank you. And so we have tips or gratuity here to say thank you. And one friendly reminder that I want you to have a calculator in your hand, please, 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 because I want you to be punching the numbers in the calculator along the way and getting these answers with me so you can see how I'm calculating. I have noticed in the past that any students who fail the quiz on this unit, it's because they don't know what to punch in the calculator. And it's because they kick back and they just wait for me to do the math for them in the calculator. So as I'm reading through these problems, y'all, please have a calculator in your hand and be punching in the numbers so that you see the math, all right? So for the first problem here on page 3, we want to remind you guys that gratuity or a tip gets added in. You've already explored with discounts on page 2, things that get subtracted. So on page 2, when we multiplied the original amount times the discount, we then subtracted the discount away. Now on this page for tip, you add that into your total to pay the server or the waiter or the waitress. So for the first one here, we have Rachel's family of 6 went to Outback and the meal was $106. At a lot of restaurants, an 18% gratuity is automatically added for parties of 6 or more. So what that means is that Rachel's family, when they got the bill, there was already the tip amount included. And the way the calculation happens is it's that $106, and then when you take the 18% and make it a decimal, it's 0.18. So in your calculator, when you multiply 106 times 0.18, you're going to see that it's $19.08. That means that $19.08 was added into the cost of their meal, and the total price that they've spent at Outback is $125.08. The only thing I'm missing over here is dollar signs. We want to label our answer with dollar signs because we're talking about money. All right, so you can see it's the same process as calculating a discount, but instead of subtracting the discount to get the sale price, we add the tip or add the gratuity to get the total amount. All right, for number 2, Emily is the server at Chili's. One of her tables has a bill of $48. If she expects a 20% tip, how much will her tip be? So for this one, we're going to take the $48 that they're going to pay, and we're going to multiply it by 0.20. And when you multiply 48 times 0.20 in your calculator, you're going to get $9.60. Notice that it's not asking us how much will Emily pay, or will Emily's table pay. It's just asking how much tip will she get. So we're going to stop the calculation there, and that's our answer. For one more problem, Mr. Cowgill takes his wife out to dinner for her birthday. Their bill with tax is $43.75. Unfortunately, though, the service was mediocre, and what that means is that the service is so-so. It wasn't great, it wasn't bad, it was mediocre. So instead of leaving the traditional 20% tip, Mr. Cowgill is just going to leave a 15% tip for their server. So for this question, it asks, how much tip will he leave their server? So this one's kind of like number 2, where it's asking for the gratuity only. And so we take 43.75 and we multiply it times 0.15, and we'll see that they're going to leave a $6.56 tip. Now, if this problem asked how much will Mr. Cowgill spend at the restaurant, that's when we would add this amount to the $43.75 and get the total, but it's not asking that. It's asking for how much will he tip the server. So just like with discounts, there's some key words to help you clue you in on when you stop your calculation, if it's gratuity only, or where you would need to then add the tip to get the total. So if you see things like how much tip will that person leave? It could be a boy, it could be a girl, but how much tip will they leave? Kind of like for number 3, how much tip will Mr. Cowgill leave? If it straight up asks, what's the amount of tip? Or how much will the tip be? That's when you know you're going to stop after you just multiply the original cost times the decimal. Now, if it goes on to ask you, how much will they spend? Or what is the total? Or how much will they spend including tip? How much will it cost? Any of those questions there mean it wants you to go ahead and add in the tip for the total amount. So what I'm going to have you guys do now is I'm going to have you practice on the bottom questions down here. I'm going to put a blinder up. You can see I'm just moving the screen. I'm going to have you pause the video and try these problems. There's 3 problems down below to try, and then hit play to see if you were right. So go ahead and pause the video now. All right, so for the first one about Mia, Mia hired a moving company, and the company charges $500 for its services. Mia then gave the movers a 16% tip. So how much did Mia tip the movers? So $500 times the 16% as a decimal, 0.16. And y'all in the calculator, go ahead and get your calculators out. You should still have them. You're multiplying if you haven't already. 500 times 0.16, and you should have gotten an $80 tip. If the question asked how much would it cost Mia, or what is the total, then we would say $580. But again, it's just asking about the tip. Now for number 2, Brittany and her 3 friends went out to lunch, and together their meal was $62.38. If each girl leaves a 20% tip, how much will they each add to their bill? So if it's just asking how much they're each going to add to their bill, once again, it's just asking for gratuity. So if Brittany and her 3 friends are out to eat, that means there's 4 people splitting the cost of the meal. All right, Brittany and her 3 friends is 4 people total. So then we can divide that to see that each person owes, in the calculator, 15.595, which is basically each person owes $15.60. So if that's what each person owes, then they're going to tip 20%. And our final answer here would be that each person is going to pay $3.12 that they're going to add to their bill. Now there is another way to do this problem that you might have done, and I'm going to talk about it real quick. You could say I'm going to have $62.38. That's the total cost of the meal for right now. Let's go ahead and tip the 20%. All right, so that's how much together all of the people would tip. So if we now divide that number, let me move this real quick. If we divide that by 4, you can see it would round. It's the same answer. So you can divide the meal by 4 to begin with, and then see what a 20% tip would be for just that amount. Or go ahead and tip 20% and divide it by the 4 girls and see how much they would each have to leave, $3.12. And for the last one here, we get $214.81. If Adam took his parents out to dinner for their anniversary and he's paying for all 3 of them, we don't need to divide it up. So if the meal was $179.01 and he's going to leave 20%, we want to know how much did he spend on the anniversary dinner. So first things first, we've got the cost of the meal, and we're going to multiply it by the decimal of the percent. So we've got 179.01 times the 0.20. When we get this number in the calculator, the 2 would not round that up. So Adam's going to leave $35.80 to the server. If he adds that into the cost of the meal, Adam would have spent $214.81 total. And that concludes our video on how to calculate tip, or as it's known in restaurants, gratuity. Thank you.